Hey everyone, I'm Erin. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing another video in a series that I've started, and it's my Let's Talk series. So I believe I've done 2 videos already, if I'm considering the one in September as part of this series or kind of the start of it. But I covered kind of like my inventory and kind of like how to plan ahead for shopping if you're worried about your budget. And then I've also done one on project panning as far as like why people do it, why you might want to do it yourself. And I did end up sharing my spreadsheets in that video. And so I will always have a shareable link to my spreadsheets in my description box. So if you have been considering doing an inventory or starting a project pan, check down below for my video links and also my spreadsheets. But today we are going to be tackling the topic of collector's mentality. And this is actually the perfect timing for this video because I finally encountered something that stopped my collector's mentality. And so I have mentioned in some of my other videos that I do pretty much collect the mid-size Natasha Denona eyeshadow palettes. So I'm sure you have seen all over YouTube that Natasha Denona just released her mid-size Xenon palette, which is basically grays and blacks with, I don't even know. I've watched a bunch of videos from other people who picked up the palette, and I've seen them do swatches, and I really can't tell the difference between all the different grays and blacks, and one's supposed to be a navy blue, but it just looks gray to me. So that was the palette that put a stop to my collector's mentality with the Natasha Denona palettes. So I kind of want to talk about my mindset about that, how I talked myself out of that palette, and maybe some other kind of tips and tricks along the way if you are struggling with collector's mentality. I'm not quite sure how long I will ramble in this video, so grab yourself a drink. I do have a cup of coffee. This is in the Texas mug from the Starbucks like travel collection. Anytime my husband travels for work, he picks me up a cup from where he went, and this was, oh God, he stops off in Texas all the time, but I think this is when he went to El Paso for a work trip. So I have my coffee. Hope you have something tasty to drink yourself, and let's talk about collector's mentality. So just like my other videos, when we kind of thought about the behavior and the mindset behind something that we're doing, we want to know why. I think sometimes when we're going to challenge a behavior and we ask ourselves why, sometimes it can come off as accusatory, or that we are doing something bad, that now we reflect that we are a bad person because we're doing this. So I think sometimes when we are approaching something that we're having a little bit of trouble with, maybe asking why, but it is what about this particular brand, product, type of product, what is it about this that kind of piques our interest and makes us feel like we need all of it? So if you want to ask yourself why and you feel comfortable doing that, then why are you doing this? But if you feel like asking yourself why is going to set off kind of like a defense mechanism where, I'm judging myself or now I feel bad, what is it about this that makes you want to do the behavior of purchasing? I know one of you reached out and said that, you have difficulty with lip products. So if a company comes out with a lip product and you really fall in love with the formula, it looks good on you, it's comfortable, whatever your tastes are, and now you feel like you need all of the shades. And typically when we're doing this behavior, we have a ton already in our collection. So bringing in a whole product line of like 8 lip glosses on top of the probably 30 or 40 that we already have, we're kind of doing it at the detriment of ourselves, our products, our money. If you want to even go as far as the environment, because you are consuming more plastics and more plastics that you will probably end up throwing away because the product goes bad. So any way that you want to spin it to yourself as to what is the reasoning behind changing the behavior, that is important. This next topic I did touch on a little bit in my Project Pan video, but that is, I guess, maybe the FOMO or the anxiety behind not having something. So if this goes back to a scarcity mindset of I need extra because I don't know if or when I'll be able to get more. If you're having difficulty with FOMO, which is the fear of missing out, and basically, you see everybody else on YouTube talking about this particular thing, but you didn't get it, or maybe it's not in your price range, it's not in your budget, and now you're sitting there saying, and I think that we can talk to ourselves a bunch of different ways with FOMO. You can have the mindset of the keeping up with the Joneses, which that expression is kind of living up to another person's lifestyle, living up to another person's caliber of living, even though you personally might not be able to afford it or sustain it. So again, it's of our detriment if we're doing that. I think also it is the fear of missing out of something really special, something that could have been a holy grail. And I'll give an example of this. I just tried Odin's Eye this year with the Trick or Treat palette, which I have a shade from that palette on my eyes, the gold shade. And last year when the Christmas palettes came out, I really wanted one. But I was like, oh, I'll see how it does and I'll pick it up later. It sold out in like minutes and then they never came back with more. So that I really almost, and I'll use the word regret very lightly, but I regret not being a little bit more diligent about picking up that palette. I feel like the color story was something that really spoke to me, and Odin's Eye has not released anything except for when they came out with Trick or Treat with Angelica. They haven't released anything else that has kind of grabbed my attention like that palette. And so even now I'm kind of like, what are they going to release this Christmas? Are they going to have another Christmas palette? And so I'm almost psyching myself out for it. So part of me felt like I missed out on something really special. And maybe that special thing, if I would have had it also, it would have made me feel part of a group, part of a community, that, I was part of this person who had this palette. There's a lot of mindsets that if we're feeling disconnected from things, are we purchasing to feel more connected? Do we feel like we're trying to, and maybe this is speaking to people that are just on YouTube, but do we feel like we need to live up to the people that are getting the whole PR collections? And again, this is coming from somebody with a very small channel. I just hit 800 subscribers, so thank you for all of that. It is absolutely incredible that 800 people out there want to listen to me babble. But I think when I first started doing YouTube back in like 2017, I had the mindset that I needed to put up a haul every month to be entertaining. I had to have 7 things to review. I had to have all of these things because even back then, I think with the beauty community, and that maybe is where a lot of people started watching a lot of this, people were getting the huge PR kits. They were getting the entire collections. They were showing us all this stuff. And I think like we wanted to connect with that person by saying, I have that too. Or we were trying to present ourselves as at their caliber, which again, maybe goes back to keeping up with the Joneses or keeping up with the Tatis. I mean, I'll say that, even though I love her PR hauls now that I've disconnected a little bit from that feeling of needing to keep up with somebody else and realizing that I am not on their level. I will never be on their level. And I'm okay with that. That isn't me dogging myself. That is me okay with not being on that level. But once I backed up from that, it was actually really entertaining to see like, what does the whole collection look like? What is the one shade that is intriguing to me? I think also we end up with, and maybe this will segue into another topic, but when we end up having the collector's mentality, are we shopping for our taste? Are we shopping to have the collection? And I think my Natasha Denona palettes, I can go back as a perfect example. So the pastel palette and maybe the mid-size Zendo palettes. They are not necessarily my taste. Like, I have fun playing around with them. I think even the original Glam palette, because it's very cool toned, I enjoy them and they're pretty, but they're not my taste. If I lost those palettes, I would probably not go back out to purchase them. And I think that that's where we end up in another conundrum of, let me buy the whole line of lipsticks and then realize that, and now again, I'll speak personally, I don't wear reds. I don't wear dark colors. I don't like really pale colors either. Like, I don't like the concealer lip. I don't necessarily lean towards peachy tones on my lips. And so if I pick up an entire collection of lipsticks, probably I'll be able to think that 3 out of 10 look good on me. And so where does that leave the rest of my collection? You know, I think for bigger YouTubers that need to keep collections for swatching, for comparisons, for dupes, great. They are able to do the archive system. But as regular consumers, I think we have to take the step back and realize that we don't have to have the archive. We have this beautiful thing at our fingertips called the internet, and also even just YouTube. You can type in any sort of product. You can get swatches on skin, on lips, on all different kind of skin tones. And I think that is where we need to use that as a resource instead of feeling like I need to know what all of those look like on me or I have to have all of them. And let me maybe go into kind of the completionist feelings. So feeling complete, and maybe I'll get a little bit deep on this one, but I think a lot of people out there do not feel content and complete in their lives. If it's in a job, in a relationship, in a city, in a friend group, in a college major, whatever it is, I think a lot of us don't feel complete. So we try to plug the holes with other things. And this can be a variety of things. A lot of times I think, and I'll make a generalization here, I know this happens with men also, but I think with women a lot of times that does come down to shopping. Getting the new blouse that makes you feel good, the new pair of shoes. And I used to do this too. I used to go and buy myself, the fantasy self. Remember that, because that'll be another topic. But the fantasy self of, I would go buy heels knowing that I have a foot condition and I can't wear heels. Why? Why? They're sitting in my closet covered in dust. But I had this mindset that if I was this person who dressed a certain way, who wore heels to work, who, I guess this persona in my mind that I would feel complete once I looked a certain way. So when we're thinking about even, again, the completionist mentality, then it's like, do we really feel that the 3 lipstick shades that don't suit us, are they going to make us feel complete? Are they going to make our collection feel complete? So maybe asking yourself, what does complete feel like? I know I have had some new people come on and comment, and you guys have all been lovely, but definitely saying like, oh, I have a more minimalist collection, but I think that this is a good way to track, or this is really good advice on this. And for those people, that minimal collection, that is complete. And it might be for a bunch of different reasons, space, time. If I didn't want to wake up and spend an hour and a half getting ready every morning, I wouldn't, but I enjoy it. So there's a bunch of reasons why somebody might say their collection is complete with 10 products, And some people might be thinking my collection isn't complete without 1,000 products. And now I have the Little Mermaid song stuck in my head. Cheers to that. And it's still going, gadgets and gizmos of plenty. So I think looking at what is complete to you. So is complete products that you will use? Is complete products that look good on you? Are they products that you can make work? That kind of thing. So maybe asking yourself, what is it about my collection that would make it feel complete? And even have it as its own entity, because our things are not us. So my makeup collection does not define me as a person. I don't carry it around as part of my identity. Now, do some people see me at work and they're like, oh, it's the girl that always has a full face? Cool, they have put that identity on me, but I do not carry that around. So I can't transpose my feelings of feeling incomplete onto objects and think that if I only had this. Let me go on a tangent, and maybe this is a tangent that will help somebody, or maybe this is a tangent that nobody asked for. But the Instagram mentality, and I'm getting comfortable over here because I'm just chatting to a camera. But the Instagram mentality, the fact that they take 100 pictures to post one so that they can portray that they have a certain lifestyle, that it turns out perfect every time. But perfect doesn't exist. And I hope that even online, perfect includes filters and Photoshop and getting the right take. And the thing that I really love about, and again, tangent nobody asked for, but I love watching Jessica Braun, and she shares a lot about her life and her relationship with her husband. And when she does the Ask Me Anything videos and people are like, oh, you and Tyler never fight. And she's like, we're not turning on the camera for that. And so, somebody might look at her life and be like, oh, her girls are so well behaved and her husband never fight. And it's like, who turns on the camera when their child is having a meltdown? Who turns on the camera when they're having a fight with their partner, unless you need it for evidence? But I think the way we portray ourselves to other people, how we want to, I guess, have this front coming off, I think that sometimes we really need to check that. Which there's a reel going around, and it's like guys washing their sports cars and like shining them up, and they're like, it's crazy that I spend this much time doing something that I'm just hoping another guy will like it. And I think that that's the mentality of, when you're going around with something flashy, or if you're presenting something and you want other people to take notice and look at you and be like, man, that person has it all together. Guess what? That person probably does not have it all together. And even in and I don't know if I'll cut this out or not, but even in my profession, I think that I'm expected to have it all together. And I have to be very open and honest with the people that I work with professionally that nobody has it all together. So if we're struggling with something, then I think that instead of just pushing it away and saying, like, I'm not supposed to struggle with that because I need to be perceived in a certain way, I think that we need to maybe take some time to reflect on that. And that's kind of the hardest thing to do is to reflect on the things that are inside when all we want to do is portray something different on the outside. So if we are having the collector's mentality or even the fear of missing out because we're comparing ourselves to Instagram, to large YouTubers, I think that, again, we're setting ourselves up for failure because we are setting ourselves up against somebody that is outside of our caliber. And that doesn't mean a caliber of character. I think that comes to a caliber of resources. And I'm only speaking of even myself, financially. So, I don't have Tati money. I don't have companies sending me PR. So, why would I try to keep up with somebody that is at that level? I had to ask myself that. Why am I trying to keep up with somebody that I am not in their range? Now, that doesn't mean to work your behind off and try to get to their range, but I think Tati even brought it up that she started out like doing the coupons at like Walgreens and trying to get the drugstore makeup as cheap as possible. Jessica Braun started out by talking about the drugstore makeup. So, they started where their budget would allow, and they didn't get themselves necessarily in the trap of debt to get where they are. I think Samantha March talks very honestly about getting herself into debt for YouTube and how she changed her mindset to get herself out. So these are all people that are telling us the cautionary tales, but we have to be open to receive it and then actually do something about it. I'll end that little segment with a quote that I love, and it's "Comparison is the thief of joy." And the more that we compare ourselves to other people, especially people online and the people that are portraying this certain type of lifestyle online, the more we compare ourselves to them, that will steal all of the joy out of our life. And unfortunately, I think advertising and social media feeds on this. The more that we compare ourselves to others, and maybe the more depressed or anxious we get about it because we are not at their level, the more we probably want to consume, the more we want to shop, the more we want to spend. So just like a bunch of people say that, brands are not your friends, people that send you PR are not your friends, like they are marketing teams that are paid to figure out how to manipulate consumers into purchasing. I think a lot of people on larger social medias that are constantly pushing products or pushing certain things, it's the same way. They are approaching it from a mindset of, if I can get people to consume this product, then I will get my cut and I will get something from it. So just be wary of the way that you are involved in social media, what you are watching. If your mindset is not attuned with kind of being able to hold off on the manipulation of marketing, then that might be your cue to step back a little bit. Don't let comparing yourself to somebody else be the thief of your joy. Find your own joy somehow, because there is a great possibility that those people that you are looking at their perfect lifestyles on Instagram and on YouTube, they are probably also struggling with something behind the camera, because most people will not turn on the camera for the ugly stuff. And I think, apart from some people and some topics, I think that if they are turning on the camera for a lot of drama, for a lot of judgment, for a lot of unflattering reactions, or filming somebody else's behaviors to shame them, that isn't the person that you want to model yourself after either. So maybe you're asking yourself that maybe collecting is the way that I find joy, that I'm not comparing myself to others, that then I would say, does it come down to money? Does it come down to space? Does it come down to you feeling guilty for not using something? If money's not an object and you want to collect things, then great. But again, I would go back to, are you trying to fill some sort of void within yourself, your relationship, your environment, your mindset? Are you trying to fill that void with something else. I think that is maybe my big takeaway from this is, are we filling some sort of void? And I think in my last video, I talked about like self-soothing behaviors. So are we trying to soothe something by having the full collection? Like, do you look at it and be like, oh gosh, I can have the anxiety off my shoulders of missing one thing. When I sat down to do this topic, I didn't know I was going to be getting so deep in it, but I think a lot of our behaviors go back to something emotional or something missing that, if it's not being of a detriment to us and it's actually fulfilling something, then great, do it. But the amount of times that I hear in my comments that my collection is overwhelming, all these products are overwhelming, why would we want to keep doing a behavior that causes discomfort? And I like this analogy, and I use this one quite a bit, is when does a snake, lobster, anything that sheds its skin, when does it know that it's time to shed? And it's when it becomes uncomfortable. So when we start to change, when we start to grow personally, spiritually, mindset wise, being more mindful of our budgets, we change our behaviors. When we start to grow and something in our environment still makes us uncomfortable, it is time to shed that skin. So if you are overwhelmed by your collection, it might be time to shed some of those products, shed the behaviors. We have to grow into something and create an environment around us that actually makes us feel content, that makes us feel whole and complete. And typically, clutter and things spilling out, things not having a place, it creates a level of either indifference or anxiety. So indifference is, of course, we walk by the piles of stuff, I'll deal with that later, that doesn't matter. But really in the back of our minds, we're like, what am I going to do with that? Like, it's the what is it, a contradiction between the projected thought and the actual thought in the back of our heads. So it can come down to the apathy of it, or it can come down to the anxiety side. And typically, if our minds are already cluttered with anxious thoughts, the last thing that we need is visual static. And it's kind of like, again, it's kind of like a sensory thing. And I'm sure anybody out there, if you have ADHD or even people on the spectrum, then you probably understand visual clutter, visual static. It makes the brain just short circuit because you're already trying to deal with so much that too much visual stimuli just completely throws you off. And then, of course, sometimes that leads to, just feeling more anxious, but sometimes that leads to the apathy side where, well, I can't deal with anything because this is so overwhelming. So if any of you guys are struggling with any of the things that I talked about as far as, do you feel like you need to have all of it because you're trying to keep up with somebody else or portray a certain lifestyle? Are you having anxiety of the fear of missing out, and so you just feel like you have to have it all? Are you comparing yourself to others as far as trying to create this perfect aesthetic or this perfect life? Are you filling holes with products? Are you trying to fill a void with things? Or are you having difficulty with kind of, again, just feeling like it's too far gone? Like, the collection is so big now, my behaviors are set in stone, it's too far gone. I want to let you guys know that there is hope and there is ways to change. Of course, for things, because I said that a lot of times it can go back to, emotions, trauma responses, all that stuff, like therapy. Please go work on that stuff. A lot of times, if we try to heal the superficial, if you put a band-aid over a deep festering wound, you're just going to lock in the infection. So you need to take tender love and care of each layer of a behavior. And so, some of you might have deep-seated stuff that has happened that you need to work on. Find somebody you're comfortable with and go do that. Some of you might be like, I'm good emotionally, I just like shopping. Okay, well, if that changes, then maybe some of these other things will help you figure out what's going on, what's behind the behavior, and ways to kind of change it. But I think even my response from my last video where I shared my spreadsheets, a lot of you are saying, hey, I put my inventory into my spreadsheet, and just seeing it all in one place has helped me realize that maybe there's a problem. I'm able to actually see it. And as long as we keep like a behavior as this like concept that maybe we do it and it's not that big of a deal, like we're going to keep doing it because it's not in front of our face, which tangent nobody asked for. Girl math. I know it is all done in fun. I can take a joke. I understand it's a joke. But girl math bothers me to the people out there that are impressionable and the people out there that do have difficulty with shopping, because girl math makes light of a destructive behavior of overspending. So if we can say, and my husband says this to me all the time, I'll be like, oh, I picked this up, I got it on sale. He said, but how much did you have to spend to get it on sale? So if it wasn't something that I needed, I spent $30 to get this thing that was pretty and maybe doesn't serve a whole lot of purpose, but I spent $30 on this thing just because it was on sale. So if girl math is getting you in trouble, then maybe don't make light of a situation where spending is a real issue for people. I think that a lot of people are more in debt. And so I don't have children. I think I mentioned that in another video. And you guys that have kids, maybe you can let me know down below how you're approaching this. But when I was younger, my mom would have me write out the checks for the bills and balance her checkbook. She was a single mom, 2 kids, and she never lied about what her income was. I saw every single credit card bill. I saw how much it was for groceries and for the electric bill, the water bill, house payment. I knew what everything was because I was writing the checks and I was balancing her checkbook. And it prepared me to know what it costs to live as an adult outside my mom's house. So it prepared me for the future. I was able to move out of my mom's house at 19 years old, which I know a lot of people can't do nowadays because, again, the economy is what it is. But I think a lot more people in my generation, and I'm technically a millennial, but I think that we are more in debt than our parents ever were. And so a lot of people that I would talk to that, oh, my kids are off base. They don't understand. They want new iPhones, but we can't afford it. I'm like, are you showing them how much money you have? Well, no. Well, they think because they got iPhones or they see you upgrade every 2 years, they don't have any concept of money because you've never shown them. So I think that there is a lot more shame associated with debt in my generation. And so we do hide our spending. We hide our debt. We hide our credit card bills. We hide, the amount of our student loans. And this, taking more money from student loans than you actually need because you want to buy things or go on vacation. I think that our generation is more in debt. We have more shame behind it. We hide it from our children. We are not passing on financial literacy, and I think that that is another big issue. This video took a huge turn, but I think that it all comes back around, and I hope that these types of series will touch on beauty and how we are consuming, but I want it always to come back to how are we being responsible with our finances? How are we being responsible with our resources? How are we being responsible with our own feelings about things, the way that we're living, our livelihoods? I think that's where I want to make sure that these videos all kind of come back to. Are your behaviors matching up with your mission in life? But my mission, when I finally get to retire, is to be able to relax in my dream home on acreage with ducks and chickens and goats and mini donkeys. Like, that is my mission. That is what I'm headed towards. If yours is to live in Italy, if yours is to own your own bookstore or, open a nonprofit, if your mission is one of those things, whatever it is, and your behaviors now are not matching up with that mission, something has to change. And if it's buying fewer lipsticks is the first coin, drop in the bucket, we all have to start somewhere. And so maybe I'm trying to do these kind of like lectures, welcome to my TED Talk, where I basically put this out through the beauty community and, slap some lipstick on it. Maybe it'll reach somebody who actually needs to hear this and see that it is possible to change. So I have been recording for over 40 minutes and my coffee is long cold. So I will see what I can edit this down to, but I think that's where I want to leave this. But if you have a different take on this, if you have different feelings about collector's mentality, or if you're struggling with it, if you have found another way to stop your collector's mentality, drop it down below and let me know, because it also helps a lot of other people that maybe don't feel comfortable commenting. And if you're asking the same question as them or providing advice to a question that they don't feel comfortable putting on a public forum, I want this channel and this place to be a comfortable place for us to discuss uncomfortable topics. Basically, we'll put it at that. But I appreciate all of you. I've gotten some really good responses from these types of videos and just how I am presenting ways that I have shifted my mindset and how I have become more intentional with my spending and my consumption. It starts in the beauty community, but then it trickles down to every other part of my life. And so if you guys have any other topics that you want me to talk about, please let me know. I am not an expert on any of this, so I'm almost kind of flying by the seat of my pants and making my own commentary and opinions about a lot of this stuff. So again, all of this stuff is allegedly in opinions. I know nothing of other people's lives. Because of course we have to all say that now because of liability. But if you guys enjoyed this topic, if you got something out of it, let me know down below. I really do appreciate all of you. To everybody who's new, welcome. Stick around for Project Panning, Conscious Consumerism, more of my TED Talks about makeup and finances, and then also with some sprinkling of some eyeshadow looks in there as well. But I really do appreciate all of you. Do all the things. Go ahead and thumbs up this video. Let me know what other topics you want me to go over. Hit that subscribe button if you're new here. I really do appreciate all of you, and I hope that you have a wonderful day. I'll catch you in my next one.